mom like?
Yeah.
What do you remember about Grandma Leona and
Yeah. You mean you want me to tell you?
I do.
Right now?
I do.
You're not taping.
I am.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, she was very funny, and I remember Sarah and the Coons girls were there one day, and Mom was a big smoker.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember that.
an ice tray would be there, and it would just be piled. And the kids are sitting around and says, "Can we smoke?" "Sure you can." And she gave each one of them a cigarette. There was Anne and Anne Marie and Sarah and
Well, Sarah Jane and Anne
yeah,
and
that's right.
Anne Marie and
And she gave them cigarettes, and she lit them, and she said, "Now here's how you do this." And she showed them the ashtray and that. You know, they all got so sick.
Oh my gosh, I bet.
And when it was all over, she said, "Well, how did you like that?" "We don't like smoking." She said, "That's a good thing." So, and I don't know if any of them ever did. I don't remember any of them
I bet
ever
those two
smoking.
never. I bet those two never did.
But she was
Didn't
always.
do it with you though.
Pardon?
Didn't do it to you.
No.
Well, you were probably smoking at 10, weren't you?
Well, yeah, we were. We were in the neighbor kids, Bowman's, and I had a little surrey with a pony, and we would scare up 14 cents and take all the kids, and we'd go down the blacktop to DeLong and go into the store, and you could buy a pack of cigarettes for 14 cents. And we'd go in and buy it, and they were from 6 years old to my age. Light them up, and down the road we go with the pony, all these little kids smoking. So, but anyway, that's,
What did Grandma do during the day? Was she never worked?
No,
Didn't work
no, she
back
didn't.
then.
She had a good friend, Marie Moffat, and Marie was a person that had no problem getting into her Lincoln or Chrysler, black, driving to the country, pulling into the driveway, sitting there all afternoon, the two of them just talking and smoking.
In the car?
No,
Oh.
in the house.
She'd come to see her in
Yeah,
the
and
country.
she would come many times during the week, sometimes 3 or 4 times. And they'd sit there and talk and carry on and everything else, and come about 4:30, she'd head out because Dad would be home at 5:30, and that's what Mom did.
Was she a good cook?
Well, at that point in time, I would say we just moved to the country, and Dad was working at the factory as in a paint booth,
Oh, he was.
and there wasn't a lot of money, and she really could cook graphic food. She got it down to a science. And really, basically, she was cook a lot of outdoor stuff because we would hunt rabbits and quail, and that's squirrel. That's about it. But rabbits and quail, we ate that 2 or 3 times a week because across the street, or across the road where we lived, there was a hedgerow that was about a mile long, and they'd put me on one side, Dad would get on the other, and we would walk down there, and I was the dog.
Okay.
And kick rabbits out, and eventually got to the time where, when I was about 10, he gave me a shotgun, just what I needed. And after a year or so of carrying it with no shells and just pointing it, one day he finally said, "Here, put these in. Now, you know how to do this." "Yeah, I do." So, and then we would hunt together. And but that was it. She had to be a good cook to do rabbits and quail and
Yeah, no kidding.
and so.
I know she was big in PEO.
Yes, she was. And one of the stories, she said they went to Chicago to the PEO convention. And she was, this was before she had all of the arthritis. And she had been shopping along the street there, maybe into Marshall Fields or wherever. And she went out and hailed a cab, and she said, "I'm staying at the Palmer House. Can you take me there?" He says, "I certainly can." He went down about 2 or 3 cars, cut across to the other side. It was right across the street. She said, "Well, that was a short ride." You know, yeah, that was. That'll be X number of dollars. Oh, well.
When did you move into town?
When I was in the 5th grade.
And was that the house that they lived in that I know of? No, on Broad Street.
Yeah, down on Broad Street, where you lived.
They lived in that house before we did? They didn't live with Grandma Philblad in the other white house up the street? On Broad Street, the one that we...
No, when we moved to town, we moved in with Grandma.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was Aunt Jo. She was crippled, and Grandma, and Artie, and Myrna. And then when Joe got back from the Army, he was there. And then we had Sarah and I, and Mom and Dad there. So there were about 8 or 9.
Wow, I don't think I knew you all lived there together.
Yeah, we did. And we lived there, and it was probably 3 or 4 years. And then the house up on Broad Street came up for sale, and we moved up there, next to the corner, right, it's where...
Across from Jane? I mean...
No, it's up Broad Street, about 4 houses toward town, from Grandma's.
Oh, okay.
And then there was one on the corner, and then there was another one, and it was the next, I think it belonged to Mrs. Runyon or someone like that.
Oh.
And she had passed and they sold it, so Dad bought it. Big deal.
So you're just a few blocks away from Grandma.
Not even, maybe a block, yeah.
And then they finally built the house, that ranch that they lived in that I knew of.
Well, after they came back from the country, and we were at Grandma's for about 4 years. We were at that house all the way through high school, and I was married. Pat and I got married. They were still living there, and it was after that that they built down on Lewis Lane.
Okay.
So it was, a period of time,
Okay.
and that's
I guess I didn't realize that gap. I knew Grandma Philblad's house, but I guess I didn't know you lived there. So Grandpa must have come up through the ranks at
He did. He definitely did.
So he started in a paint booth?
Yep. And I just remember, I can't remember, I can't say who the company manager was, but I remember they came out to our house for dinner in the country. Of course, we had the new house out there, and we were told that we would keep our mouth shut and get upstairs and stay out of the way, which we did. And he kind of came out, and I guess kind of an interview with Dad to see where it would go. And it obviously worked pretty well. He ended up being the person that designed the conveyor belts and everything. He set up the factory. Yeah.
Wow.
And did all of that. When they built a new building, they'd show him the layout, and here's what's going in it, and you show us how to get it from here to there. And he did. And he ended up with a very good job. So, worked hard though.
I always thought Grandpa was so smart.
He was. He was.
I mean, I remember as a little kid once, I got stung by a bee.
Yeah.
And this was one of those things I remember in the backyard. You and Mom were both there and
Yeah.
putting mud on it or doing whatever. But all I wanted to do was go, take me to Grandpa.
Yeah, he can fix it.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, he was. When I got involved in the game call business and everything, we'd go head to head. You know, he said, well, this is what you're going to do. And I said, that's not going to work. And he says, well, I'll tell you, that's the only way it's going to work. And I said, well, that's not the way I'm going to do it. You know?
Because he could see
Yeah.
kind of the line, so
Yeah,
to say,
yeah.
on how things should be put together.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have any problem with that, but it was in the manufacturing part that we disagreed quite often.
Interesting.
But he was always very supportive. Very. Can't say he wasn't. And of course, Mom at that time, her health was bad, and so she really didn't do much. You know, she couldn't. TV and cigarettes. That was her life.
She played cards a lot, I remember.
Yeah, probably.
Or in the earlier years.
Yeah.
Somebody's told me that. I don't
Yeah.
remember it myself.
Yeah.
That she used to. And Grandpa liked gardening, didn't he? Didn't he like roses?
Yeah, he did. And
Do you know how-
there was I don't know if you remember down on Lewis Lane, but he built a wall.
A stone wall.
A stone wall about, I would say, 3 feet high.
Mhm.
And he had roses all along that. And he really liked that.
And he had grapes in the corner.
That's right, a grape harbor. That's
Concord grapes, we'd go over there and he taught us how to eat them.
true. Yeah. Suck the
Suck
insides out.
the inside out and throw the skin down.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Jane and I drove by, because Daniel's bought a house now, you know,
Yeah,
on
I
North
know.
Street, and so she was showing me that, and so she drove by to show me another little house that they looked at in Knoxville that she thought was kind of sweet, and we were in that neighborhood, so we just drove back by Grandpa's.
Yeah.
It's changed so much because they've taken fencing down and trees are different and things.
Oh yeah,
and
the
that,
trees
that
were enormous.
wall
Yeah.
is gone.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's
It was going.
But I remember, you know, as a kid, that backyard just was massive. It was so big.
Oh, I know.
And it seemed like there was a little grotto kind of over by Hotchkiss's property line. I remember a bird bath that was over there. But it just seemed more overgrown and dense and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like.
Hardly anything. A little
Yeah.
like my front yard. Not that big.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, same way at Broad Street. I remember that
Yeah.
house just being, that backyard being massive
And
too.
the playhouse in the backyard.
Yeah, do you tell me the story of that playhouse? Was it a?
Well, it was built by A.R. Lacey Lumber Company for a parade because Grandpa,
Your grandpa?
my grandpa, which I never knew, he died, owned the lumber yard. And they built this little house as a display for the lumber company to show people what they could do. And Dad found it someplace. I don't know where it was. Maybe it was at the lumber yard, and went down and they loaded it up and brought it back and put it in the backyard. And that was your house. You had everything in there. It was just the way it was. And Jane couldn't go there without me. And when she'd go, she would get so embarrassed. Of course, it was egging her on. I'd say, Jane, this is your sister, Beth. And she's hiding behind my legs and hanging on so hard. She just went to pieces. She couldn't play the game.
That's right. She couldn't. This is my little Jane, and she's
Yeah.
so shy.
I'm not sure. It might still even be there.
I don't think it is.
Well,
I think I know that it was in some years.
Yeah.
We would come home to visit, but I don't think it's there now. But I remember you renovating it for us.
yeah, we painted it,
And I think maybe even might have, I don't know, I don't remember all the details, but I also remember that at one point you tried to talk me into turning it into a little candy shop.
I did.
Yeah, it was the beginning of the entrepreneurial spirit tried to pass that on to me. He said, yeah, you can buy candy bars and you can use this back window and you can just open it up and they can come over here on their bikes and all
Well,
the
that doesn't
neighborhood
sound
kids.
like a great idea.
No, it wasn't. But and again, why did I remember that?
Yeah.
Why is that so vivid? I don't know. We never did it, of course, but I remember crawling in. There was a lock on the door, and if one of us was in there, unlock the door. We could always get in them because you could always get in the back window.
Yeah, slide up. Yeah.
That was so much fun.
Yeah.
And then I remember you built an ice rink for us once. Do you remember
Well,
that?
yeah, on the neighbor's garden.
On the Wong's property.
Yeah, we put a 2x4 border around it and put plastic in it, and I tried that several times. This is the only time it actually worked.
It did work. I remember all of
Yeah.
us skating on it.
Yeah.
The neighborhood kids would come
And the problem was it would never freeze to the ground, and because of the plastic around the edge,
Oh.
it would bite to that material. So if you got 3 or 4 people on one place, the ice would sink and the water would come up. So anyway, yeah, I remember that.
That was an ambitious project.
Well, it was something to do.
It was something to do. Did you like to skate? Is that why you did it?
I
You did
used
it
to
for
skate,
us.
yeah. Well, anyway, it was
So-
fun.
Yeah. So you didn't know any of your grandparents except Grandma Philblad.
That's the only one, yeah.
What do you remember about her?
Well, she worked like a slave with 8 people in the house, you know. She would start in the morning cooking and never stopped all day long. And once in a while, she would kind of take a day off and go see a friend. And we've even got some old movies of her walking home down the sidewalk. I don't know where they are, but they're probably destroyed because it was like a 16 millimeter tape that Dad had. And but I remember that. But she just cooked all the time. And interestingly enough, even when I was 10 or 11, when the fair came, a friend of mine, John Wilsey, and I would go to the fair the day it started, and we'd go around and wanted to know if we could work anywhere. And the guy says, yeah, he said, I've got this thing where we set up 3 bottles, 2 bottles, 1 bottle, and they throw at them, and if they knock them over, they get a prize. And I said, well, we can set up the bottles. Well, he lasted about an hour, and he went back to the trailer because he was a total alcoholic. So we were in charge, the whole thing, John and I. Well,
Two 10-year-olds.
Yeah. Didn't take long to figure out the bottles weighed about 12 pounds each. They were all full of lead. The bottom ones, which you couldn't get knocked off, and the other ones were light because when you hit it, they flew, and then they said, boy, I'm going to win some. But when maybe we were 10, I was probably in the 5th grade. How old would it be? 12? 5th, 13?
No, I think 5th grade, you're probably about 11, 12, yeah.
And of course, all the girls would come around, and they would want to try it. Well, we'd set all the light bottles up on one and all the heavy ones on the other. And they're supposed to get 3 balls for $1 or a quarter. And we always gave them as many as they wanted, and they'd win, and we'd give away big bears. He didn't make much money.
Did he let you work there again?
Oh, worked there the whole
time?
The whole time.
He didn't lose his shirt?
Till midnight. Till midnight. That's when the fair closed. And well, kind of started winding down before that. And we would pick and we'd go back and knock on the trailer door and, what? We've got your money. You're okay. You come to the door and we'd put it in there. And away we'd go.
How much did he pay you?
I don't even remember. I'm not quite sure. It's probably about $2 a day.
Yeah.
But I do remember that we came home the last night and Mom or Dad said, how much money did you make? and we said, "What? We spent it all." "What you spend it all?" "We were trying to knock down bottles in another booth."
Oh man.
Yeah. So, because they had bigger prizes. So that didn't.
Yeah.
That was a venture that didn't work very well.
Well, you were quite the athlete in high school, weren't you?
Well, I was very fortunate in having good people around and played a lot of basketball and football and track and baseball. In fact, Nancy asked the other day, she said, "How many letters did you win in high school?" I said, "Well, I won 4 in football, starting as a freshman. Then I won 3 in basketball, and I won 4 in track. So I'm at 4, 8, 11, and then we started baseball, but the first year we started it because nobody knew what was going on, they didn't give anybody letters. But the next 2 years it did. So I ended up lettering the last 2 years, and so I had a good run.
Yeah.
I really did. But that wasn't important to me. I know there were people who said, you were at a ceremony and they gave you another K. Would you give it to me?" I said, "Yeah." I was like, what are you going to do with old Ks? You know?
Do you remember what was important to you in high school?
That's when I became addicted to hunting, duck hunting. In fact, we would go down to Red Gowdy, had a gas station on the corner where you turned to go down, and a couple of us would go down there on weekends, and a couple of people in town hunted ducks all the time, and they'd come down and they'd start talking duck hunting and everything else. So Dick Gag and I said that we'd like to go with you. And they said, "We're not taking anybody with us." I said, "Well, where do you go?" He said, "Well, we go down to Liverpool." I said, "Where's that?" "Well, it's down on the Illinois River." So we got a map out, looked at, and went home and told our parents that they had invited us to go hunting. Now, we were able to drive. We were old enough to drive. And I said, "So we're going to go hunting with them tomorrow." Dad said, "Okay." He said, "You be careful." Well, we jumped in the car, loaded our guns, drove to Canton, got there about 12 o'clock at night because it was after football games. And we went into a restaurant and we sat in there and ate pancakes and whatever. We had a lunch and then we ate that too because we had to kill 3.5 hours before we could go. So we got down under the river and knocked on this guy's door, and he was at the boat dock, and he came to the door and he said, "What do you want?" I said, "We want to rent a boat. Take any of them you want." I said, "Okay." Well, I said, "We need to pay you. You pay me when you get back. But I'll tell you one thing, don't ever knock on my door again. Just take the damn boat." He didn't want us getting him up. So we'd go down, and every weekend we would hunt down around the Lake Chautauqua. Did that for a long time.
And who would go with you?
Dick Gag, he was a center on the football team. And the Westerfields, there was a bunch of them around, and one of them would go. And then, of course, it carried over. I went to college and would down on the other river, but that was my downfall. It really was. Nothing. Too bad to say this, but there wasn't anything else really was too important in my life other than that. And that happens, you know. But.
And you became a world champion duck caller because of your passion for it.
Well, yeah, we didn't. I didn't even know how many calls were out there. You know, we had no idea. You know, there was Olt and Mallard Tone and Stouffer, and that's it. And you know, I tried them all, and didn't like any of them, so I started building them in the basement at Grandma's house. And when I first went to a duck calling contest, I won it. And so I thought, well,
Now, when was that? Was it still in high
let's see,
school?
huh?
Was it still in high school?
No. I was out of high school, out of college. In fact,
So is this when you went to Stuttgart and
Yeah.
did those kind of
right,
things?
right. That's where you won it.
And isn't the first time that you went, did Mom go with you? Is that when you won the first time you went?
She was down there when I won it. Yeah.
But that wasn't the first time.
No, I had gone 2 times before that. I had my own call that I'd built, and I think there was about 25 people in it. I finished about 14th. And I said I was so bad that a little gal named Billy Domain from Port Arthur, Texas beat me. And then the next year I got 2nd or 3rd, and then Dad went with me that time, and then your mom went the last time, and we went, or the next time we went out, and that's the year I won it. So,
Oh, with your own call.
no, it wasn't. I went after Billy Domain beat me. I went and bought one call in Arkansas from a guy named Chick Major, and his daughter had won it the year before, and first girl to ever win the world champion. So I said, "That's for me. I want that call." Then I started building them, but it was
I
fun.
remember you building them in our basement
Yeah,
on Broad Street.
and also down on.
You did it at Phil Blad's too?
Yeah.
So that you must have been doing that then when you were in, because you.
No, you see, when I graduated, we moved back to Knoxville, and we moved into Grandma's house.
Oh,
When I graduated from Knox,
okay.
and I was working at Swift and Company. Dick Coons' dad, Sid Coons, ran that, and so I was working there, and I'd go in every day. And I thought, well, I graduated from college. I guess I'll be a good truck driver for the meat company, And then all of a sudden, Ken Cecil said, he was the president of the school board. He said to my dad, who lived right behind him, he said, "Tell Mick we want to hire him to teach and be a coach." He never said anything to me. Dad did. I said, "Well, how does this going to work?" He said, "You're just supposed to go in and see the principal." I don't even know who it was. Thoman, I think it was. They ended up hiring me, and I was there 6 years. So probably one of the worst teachers they ever had.
You taught math, right?
I go, yes.
And you coached basketball?
And football, and track, not baseball. And I was assistant to the football coach. I was a backfield coach. The head coach, Dick Gregory, ran it. And Eklund was the basketball coach, and he was there 1 year and left. And then I ended up, because I was his assistant, ended up the basketball coach. And track, you had to do all that. You start work for $3,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
And then you get $200 if you're a head coach, and $150 if you're an assistant. And my dream was to make as much as my coach did, which was $4,000 a year. It's amazing. And we had pretty much anything we needed. I mean, we didn't go broke, but we didn't do a lot either. So.
What got you to Deluxe?
When Margaret Hagberg, Pat's sister, in Chicago, lived next door to a young guy, and he was a salesman for Deluxe. And she was going out the back door to do something, and he was going out to get into his car. And he said, "I've got a new job. I'm going to go and work Western Illinois and some of Iowa." And And he said, well, Western Illinois. He said, where? She said, well, all of Western Illinois. She said, I've got a sister that lives in a little town called Knoxville. And you ought to stop and see them. And we didn't know anything. And he stopped. And we became very good friends. And we hunted, and their family would come over and duck hunt, and the dad and his brother, and the guy that owned the tavern in town, they would come over and stay in Aquaka at the restaurant or the hotel down there, and we would hunt for a couple of days. And they always came like November 11th in that area, because we were out of school then. It was Veterans Day or Armistice Day at that time. So that's how I got to know them. And then he stopped one day, and he'd take us out in the evening to eat, and he's on the expense account, And I said, I'm going to leave the school. I said, I can't do this anymore. I got to do something else. So he said, let me use your phone just a minute. He went and called. He said, are you free tomorrow evening? And I said, yeah. He said, well, my boss, Lori Lorenz, is going to drive down, and he wants to meet you. So that's how it all started. Came down, and we talked, and I said, well, I don't know anything about checks. And that's how that started. But
how long did you do that?
24 and a half years. Yeah. Long time.
Yeah.
I remember they had a new retirement program, and they were explaining it to us in a meeting. And he said, well, let's see, Mick's been around a long time, let's use him as an example, and here's how you add it up. You get so many points for the years that you've been here. And he said, nobody knows what you're doing, as far as how long you've been. Then you get so many points above your starting salary, you get that number of points. Well, that was 5. I started 5. And then you got points for the things how your finances grew over the next 15 years. And then you got points for looking back on your original area that you called on, how much the business grew. You got points for that. So we're all going around. So he said, he said, well, I said, there's some of this I don't know, because I don't know where it was when it started, and I'm not quite sure where it was in the end. Well, you've got the rest of it. He said, what did you think? I said, I'm out of here. He said, oh, no, really. I said, I'm gone. I said, points add up, I'm out of here. So, called my boss, they did, Lori Lorenz, and I was wanting to quit right before duck season. I wanted to quit September. He said, Mick, you can't do that to me. He said, you got to stay on until the end of the year. I said, okay. So the end of the year came, and the phone rang again. And he said, I really need your help. He said, you've got to stay until June. I said, oh, I can't do that. I said, well, think about it. He said, okay, I'll make you a deal. You stay till March. I said, okay, I'll do March. March came, he said, I got to have you till June. He said, we don't have anybody to fill in for you. And that's when Bill Murphy here in Peoria came over from Louisville, Kentucky, because he came and hunted with me. I said, I got a guy that will work for you. And he said, who's that? And I told him. And they didn't do anything, and they didn't do anything, and they didn't do anything, and we're running out of time. And I said, look, I've got about 3 weeks, and you don't have anybody. So they ended up hiring Bill, and he took over my territory.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
So you were starting Big River Game Calls at that time.
In fact, I had started it about March. And we rented a building in Dunlap, a little at one time, I don't know what it was, a little grocery store or something. And I didn't have anybody to work it. And I stopped into a restaurant and I said, I'm going to start a new business here in town. And I said, I'm looking for somebody to kind of help me run this. He said, ask him. And I said, okay. So I went over and I said, Dan, I said, I'm going to start a woodworking business. I said, what are you doing? He said, I've just been laid off from Caterpillar. And I said, well, that's not going to work because I can't pay you that kind of money. And he said, well, I'm not doing anything right now. And he started at $7 an hour.
Wow.
And we went to the shop because I had already had a lot of the tools set up. And he said, now here's what you do. And I said, you can do this as long as you do it as well as I do. He did it about 2 times. I said, you're hired, you're doing it better than I do. And he became my shop foreman and was there for 15 years,
Great.
So, good guy. Kept everything going. He was a great salesperson. When we sold the business, well, there's several times the newspaper would come in and were interviewing us because we're kind of unique, even though Oat had been there for years, they were the old bunch and we were the new bunch. So the newspaper would come and they'd say, Dan's working on it. He said, how in the world do you stand here and do this all day? And he said, well, when I get bored a little bit, I reach in the box and I sort around and I pull out a real pretty piece of wood. And I put it on a spindle to sand it and turn it, and I'm thinking all this time, I wonder who the guy is that's going to get this. And, he could sell. He was a good guy. Yeah. They all were good guys.
Do you still have a lathe?
No. Nope.
Is that what you would do though? Was you would hand turn those? barrels?
No, we had a company up in Hillsdale, Illinois that rough turned them for us.
Okay.
And then
And then
once,
you would finish them. That's what
then we would bring them back, put them on a spindle, a high-speed motor, and sand it, and take a piece of wire, press down on it to burn grooves in them. And so we did the decorative work and also make them work.
So then that got bought,
Yeah.
and that went bad some way. They didn't finish paying you off or something.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that did go south. Of course, they got all our stuff, and they were supposed to pay me $50,000 a year after the sale to monitor and watch how this thing was working. And that was a 5-year contract. After 2 years, they went bankrupt.
Oh.
Yeah. But,
So then you started, what was the name of the second company?
McLacey Game Calls.
So you went back to the beginning.
Well,
because you were McLacey Game Calls when those first
We were
met.
Big River.
No, but when you were in our basement, you made.
Lacey Sports Products.
Oh, Lacey.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I still have them,
Yeah.
But when we went back to start it again, we were older. The market had changed tremendously. We were going to try to do synthetics because that's what everybody was doing. They were turning calls out. So we went to Taiwan and had the stuff imported, molded over there, and then we assembled it. But it didn't work. Everybody wanted, when we started out, all of our sales reps came back, everyone up. And when we started out, the first year was gangbusters. I thought, we're up and running, That's only good if it sells out. And it wasn't selling. and then it started tapering down. And then I had a guy come from Quebec that wanted to buy the company. And we didn't sell, we should have, but he ended up eventually buying it from us for much less than he had offered before. But anyway, live and learn.
Yeah, yeah. You still hunting today?
Pardon?
You still go hunting today?
Pacemaker.
Can't do it, huh?
Nope. Can't do it. You can't put a gun to the shoulder.
Oh, is that the
Yeah, I'm a left-hander.
Oh, that's right.
But I can shoot right-handed, but I've lost that drive to do it. I mean, I remember when we had the gun club down at the strip mines, and I would have guests coming in all the time, salespeople and everything. And I had hunted 40 days in a row. And the alarm went off, and I just turned over and hit it and laid back down. And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I can't go. I'm totally exhausted. I'm worn out." She said, "Listen, this is your job. You're got guests down there." I said, "They've been here before. They know all the guys. They can take her." She said, "This is your job, and you get up and get out of here." And I used that line many times in presentations I would be making at Bass Pro or Cabela's or something else. And I said, "I would bet you that I'm the only person in this room that their wife kicked them out of bed to go hunting." And the guys stand up and applaud. Yeah. I said, "That doesn't happen, but it did at my house." So, yeah.
What do you think of Tatum shooting that deer?
Incredible. Incredible. When I saw the picture and everything, I thought, this might not go too well with some of the little kids in your class, that you did what? You know, there's not everybody that's a hunter. In fact, there's a lot more that are not. And that's, you know, but I think it was incredible. I saw see the video.
Yes.
I mean, she did it.
Yeah.
He wasn't holding a bow or anything else. He said, "All I did was snap the safety off and picked up the camera and put over her head." And he said that was it.
Tom thought the same thing when he posted the videos, and he says, "You're going to get some people that will think that this is not right."
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, maybe if you were in, if it went viral or something, but
Yeah.
anyway."
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
you like fishing? You could go fishing still, huh?
Oh,
You still
I do that a lot.
Who do you
Yeah.
go fishing with?
Denny Hartman. He was one of the guys that was in our club. And I got to go with people that are younger than I am,
No
because
kidding.
there's a lot of work getting the boats in and out and dragging them up on the trailer to get started to leave. So I've got to have young people.
Speaking of your clubs, you used to rent property or something for your hunting, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
I mean, talk about that a little bit. Like what? Where were they? And
Well, we were down in the Canton area, down in the strip mines, and we had a little place south of Canton and I was working down there, and we'd had a tremendous snowstorm, and all the lakes were just overflowing practically. And I'm driving down the road, and I didn't even know it, but I looked over and I saw this lake. I thought, wow. So I turned around and pulled down, and here's the main office in the tipple. And I pulled in and told him who I was, and I said I would be interested in leasing this property to hunt ducks and geese. Well, he said, there's a guy that is kind of he's been the foreman around here for years, and he's kind of overlooking the thing and making sure that we don't get any poachers or keeping off. And he said, "I don't know that I want to do that." And I said, "We'll give you $4,000. Well, okay. Well, I wasn't going to boot that, but I get listed in on it and a couple others, John Kraft. And so we started there, and then we kept picking up. I think we ended up with 7. And then they knew that we had a red hot spot. And every year in March, you went into the office, and this was Buckhart Mines owned a lot of this, not only this one company, but another company owned it. And they had pretty much control over the whole thing, and you go down there and they say, okay, it's time to sign up again. I said, all right, we'll sign up for the same thing. Well, you know, if you get outbid, you lose it. I said, all right, I understand that, but do I have a chance to match the bid? Yeah. I said, well, I'll sign up for the same thing I had been doing before. Now we were up to about 6,000. I said, I'll sign up for the 6th. About a week later, she called me and she said, Mick, a guy offered $12,000 for the land. And I said, and what did you tell him? I said, I told him that I would check with you because he has the right to match it. I said, we're matching it. I got off the phone and said, now what are we going to do? So Denny Hartman came in, Kurt Sorensen, Bill Eicher. We started picking up people and got enough to cover it. And we went through that year, and I went back in and I said, I'm offering $2,000 for it. She said, well, you've been paying $6,000. I said, you said unless somebody outbid me, I could get it. She said, well, you're taking advantage of me. I said, well, I'm just doing a deal. If it comes in again at 12, we'll be here. Came back, he backed out. So now we're down to 2,000. And we came from 6 to 12 to 2. And nobody ever bucked us again. And then they finally started dividing it up and splitting it, and that's when we got out.
So how many blinds did you have on that lake?
At one time, there were 13 lakes and 13 blinds.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, there were times that we had people, in never all of them, but in 4 blinds, we'd have enough people. You know, John Liston did bring someone. Then he would bring someone, his boys. You know, it would just move around. Eicher would bring some. So we had to go here and there.
That wouldn't have been where I would have gone with you hunting when I was in grade school, because I was little. I was probably 11.
Grade school.
I may have been, well, let's see. We were living on Broad Street still. And we moved to the West Street when I was junior high. So
We must have been just in a little farm pond or something.
yeah, I can't remember anything other than
Yeah,
getting up early,
yeah,
eating at the restaurant.
yeah.
And
That was
John making a thing to keep my toes warm.
Oh, you went to the Mississippi River.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was it then.
Got in the boat and we went. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
It was just you and me and him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And,
where we went. When you said his name, I knew where it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was cold, and he created a little oven over the little cooktop by putting a skillet over it, so I could just put my toes underneath the thing, and it warmed him up. And I can remember you asking me what time I thought it was, because you know I got up at 4 o'clock
Yeah.
or whatever it was in the morning, and so you know I thought it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the
It
afternoon.
was 6.
Yeah, it might have been 11.
No, I don't remember that. But anyway.
Oh goodness, that you know, I didn't even know it was in Canton. But
No, it wasn't in Canton. We
Oh.
went to the Mississippi River.
no, where you leased all your
yeah, that
property
was
and
down in
stuff.
Canton.
I went there a couple times. I know we went there, but I remember you making a dam someplace at some point too,
yeah.
and you were so I never knew what you were doing, but you were always doing something.
I always kind of laughed, starting about July, I bought a backhoe and had it, and we had to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Got 5 minutes left before I run out of tape on this one.
anyway, I bought the backhoe, and I would go down and dig the holes, and then I'd cut all the lumber and get it, because I worked till dark, all by myself, and get it all laid out. And then Saturday we would get 3 or 4 or 5 people to come down, and we'd put those blinds in. And they'd go, you know, I said, well, here's the floor, get that, here's the back, get that, here's the end, here's the front. I said, it's done. Wow, there wasn't anything to this. The only problem was I worked 6 nights in a row after work until dark to get it all done. And but I guess that's what I wanted to do, or I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. A little bit of Grandpa's organization and production line came into play, sounds like.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. He would say, we're tearing down in the factory an area that is kind of, it's nurses' quarters and things of that sort, that if people get hurt or something in this pretty big building inside the factory. And I said, what are you going to do? And I said, get the lumber. He said, well, I'll do my best. Well, all of a sudden here comes a semi down on, with a lowboy, down on Lewis Lane, back down right to the corner, and start unloading stuff that you can't buy lumber today like that. It would be 2x6s or 2x8s, 16, 17, 18 feet long, not a knot in it anywhere. And it's, you know, the factory had been there since 1910 or something like that. So that was one of our big lumber supplies.
Well, Grandpa, was he always interested in woodworking too? Or was it
Yeah.
just in kind of his later years when he retired? Because I don't, you know.
I think a lot of it came when he retired. You know, they gave him a lot of equipment that I don't remember him doing a lot of it.
Yeah. I've lost track of the years that things happened too. You know, Grandma died in, was it 72?
Don't ask, I think.
I think it was 72. I think it was, or maybe it was 71. Anyway.
I got all that written down. That's what I have to do.
Yeah, that's
In fact,
right.
I think you did it. Sheets of everybody's birthday.
I
And,
did.
and I've got
did
that,
do that.
in the drawer. Yeah.
So, well, this was fun for me. I hope you liked it
Well,
too.
it's probably a little ridiculous, but
Nothing's ridiculous
Well,
about anything you
I
say.
don't know.
I love you very much.
Well, I know that. You know how I feel too.
I do.
Yeah, that's part of being family.